What's up, folks? It is your boy Mark Sanders back with another episode. Thank you for suffering through that first one. I was moving all over the place, but we made it through, and I want to thank everybody that reached out to kind of give us some constructive feedback. We're moving right along. I have my co-host with me today, Alex.
Hey,
What's up, buddy?
what's going on? What's going on?
How was your week, man?
It was good. It was busy. Definitely had a busy week here. So that's good. And looking forward to getting back here in the Scyfli, talk about some cool stuff with you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So today, guys, got a couple of things we're going to talk about. Well, we're going to start with current events real quick because between now and the last show, we had 420 as well as Earth Day. Both notable days, right? This 420 was different for our area this year, right? Because I don't know if you noticed, but every fast food restaurant had some kind of marketing ploy for 420.
I didn't. Usually I notice marketing ploys too. But I saw the displays all, we're all lit up and stuff with all the specials and everything like this. It felt different this year too, though. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It did, yeah.
No, this year was definitely different because of dispensaries. Like I've been doing 420 for a while, and there were some years where 420 was just another day on the calendar. Nobody even showed up. But now that we're reaching this spot, you got Popeyes with the $4.20 chicken sandwich. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. You got McDonald's, KFC, Taco Bell. Once the corporations start jumping on this, the curtain's falling because they want some money too, right? So 420 went well this year for Mount Laurel, guys. Across the street, we have Daylight, which is my favorite dispensary. We had somebody open up next to them. And then there's a third one coming right across the street from us.
Right in a row, too, just next to each other.
Oh,
boom,
yeah.
Boom, boom, dispensary.
Yeah, if you guys aren't familiar with Route 73 in New Jersey, there's this little portion of Route 73 where it ended up the only spot where you could place a dispensary, zoning-wise. So all of these places are just on top of each other. It's good for the consumer, right? Because it'll be a race to the bottom with prices.
You head over to Weedville. Yeah, true. And we get to end, and they'll be competing with each other for sure.
Got our own cannabis corridor. I never thought I'd see today. Never thought. You live right kind of close where I do, right? Never thought we'd see it.
No, when this place opened up, it was like, wow. You know what I mean? Like a real head shop in Mount Laurel. I mean, we had News and Foods on the other side, which was, basically like a 7-Eleven with a couple glass pipes in the thing. But it was never anything like this here. So even when this came, it was like a big thing.
When we opened, it was a risk. Like it was because that was the days you still couldn't say bong or bowl or anything.
Right, yeah, tobacco pipes or water pipes, go use only with all the signs.
I've hated that rule since the first day I walked into a head shop. So we didn't play that here. You can do whatever you want. Sir, tell me what you're talking about so I don't have to guess through your link. Just weed pipe? Gotcha. Anyway, so 420 went well this year, guys. There will be many more to come. You'll start seeing like events, big events. Although a lot of these townships don't want their weed events in their town, they'll come around because it's big business now.
It is. And it's basically peaceful. I mean, you have drinking holidays, and stuff like that causes more,
There are no violent, I don't know any violent potheads. No. I mean, maybe if you drank first. There's no violent potheads, guys. Anyway, so on Earth Day, which is a great day, right? Let's celebrate the Earth. Anyway, at Trenton State House, we had some civil disobedience. A bunch of people tried to plant weed at the Trenton State House right on the lawn. It was good. And I don't if you're familiar with Trenton and the State House, NJ Weedman right across the street. Shout outs to NJ Weedman, Ed. Guys, this guy is a cannabis hero, right? He has suffered for all of us, trust me. So if you're ever in town, go check out his spot. Man is a master in civil disobedience.
I remember seeing him when I was really young. The NJ Weedman does this or that. And it's like asking, am I detained? Am I being detained? Or am I being arrested? And all that stuff, from the beginning too.
Dude, he's written a couple books. His whole thing jury nullification, which is, basically, why are we putting somebody in jail for this, guys? And it's worked several times over for him. So shout out to NJ Weedman, folk hero of mine. One day, once we're worthy of him, maybe he'll come on the show. But it was a good Earth Day, good 420. We're glad that people came out for it, and continue to support your local small businesses on 420, guys. They need your support. So, all right. So today's topic, guys, we're going to be talking about the history of marijuana, right? Which is man, it's just not a lot of information until recent times on this. And when we're doing our research, like you have mentions of it, right? First, God, I'm forgetting my history terms. First, secondary source, primary source. That's the word I'm looking for. Primary sources being, people that wrote stuff down about weed back in the day. Kind of hard to find.
Or recognize what they're talking about, or
Exactly. But it's cannabis has a long history on Earth, guys. As far as I can tell, it has been everywhere humans have been.
Global. I know Native American, Chinese, Persian.
Anywhere humans were, weed has followed, because alcohol, for instance, which was probably the earliest one. I couldn't find any mentions of cannabis before alcohol, right? And, I think in ancient times, alcohol served more purposes than getting drunk, right? Because it was a safer water source, because, you couldn't just drink water sometimes, especially in, dirty cities or whatever. So alcohol or beer was like a safer way to get your moisture in.
Thirsty.
But, what we're going to find out as we go through this is that early on, when it was shamans and medicine men, they were using this stuff as a healing plant, right? But as we go on and we get to closer to current times, then you have stuff like racism that informs drug policy. You have rebellions and migrations that influenced where marijuana went. So it's a long and interesting history, and we ain't going to be able to touch all of it. So our loose history lesson here will give you the major points, because there are a lot of points. By the way, before we go into history, I forgot one thing. 100 dispensaries are open in New Jersey now.
Really?
100 out.
100? Seems like 7, but I guess, 100.
Well, most of them in
North Jersey. Yeah, North Jersey. I went to New York City for a comedy, and there's weed shops all over the place.
Oh yeah, no, those stores where you used to buy like "I Love New York" T-shirts, they sell weed now. They're cracking down.
They sold weed before? No.
But there's another thing. New York is allowing like farmers markets for bud, because there's a lot of extra weed these manufacturers and growers have. So they're going to let them have like a farmers market where they can go direct to consumer. Listen up, Jersey, because we need that.
Wow.
Far too much weed going unsmoked out here. So, all right. So we're just going to go right into our history lesson, guys. Let me... Yeah, can you put up our little timeline then? All right, guys. So, let's just hit some of the early points. 5000 BC, early use in China. So, a lot of times when you do research on a plant, for instance, you look for evidence of it in the fossil record, right? You would look for the different time periods, and if you don't see something in the fossil record, right, like this particular plant, it's hard to kind of pinpoint. But as far as humans are concerned, it was about 5000 BC when this plant kind of popped up. So, but the earliest actual use of this is in China. Again, it was a grave. Like I said this last time, it was a grave. They found it, and what it looked like they had been smoking out some cave, right? And they used it mostly for its medicinal properties. And there is an interesting figure which I couldn't really find much about. His name is Emperor Sheneng, which I'm going to butcher this, but if you know the right pronunciation, don't be afraid to comment. But this is a mythical figure, right? I couldn't really find if he was real or not because it said weird stuff like he was born from the breath of a dragon. He had a clear stomach to measure the potency of plants. Like, who has a clear stomach?
Right, yeah.
I love Far East mythology, by the way, because you get interesting stuff like this. But so I had a picture of this. Hold on, Akira. I don't think I have the picture available for us here. But there are pictures of that kind of that dig that they did.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. Well, you guys can't see.
And that's the first registered use in our of our history or whatever, the fossil record. Like you said, if they can find someone's been buried with it or whatever, then that's great. But even that person had to learn from someone had to smoke. You know what I mean? So if I had to bet, I'd say people stumbled across it. How long has life been around? Right? Yeah.
Exactly. And you remember we were talking about that first guy to try and smoke it.
Yeah.
He was a hero because he might have died. But anyway, all right, let's move on.
I smoked a huge backwood okay, no, my sorry. Full of poison oak. That's the same joke I made last time too. Damn it. All right.
We're both new, dude. We're both new. Thanks for sticking with us, by the way, guys. So we move on to India. And let's see, I'm just reading. Cannabis is used in India, both recreationally and medicinally. It is mentioned in the sacred Hindu text known as the Vedas.
About the Vedas in a couple of different ways.
Yeah, apparently it's one of their holy books. It's an Indian holy book. And it was referred to as Bhang, Bhang.
Nice.
And it was one of the 5 sacred plants, which I like this already. I love sacred plants because I guarantee you could get high off all of them. But it was a source of happiness, a joy giver, a liberator, right? And the last thing, it's gifted to humans for help in achieving delight and losing fear. I like that. I like that. The fear part, maybe not, because sometimes it makes me even more scared.
I know those books also have with like meditation and astral projection and stuff like that. So it seems like it's all along the same like lines. You know what I mean? Very spiritually enlightened people.
Yes, kind of opening the mind, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I like the whole spiritual thing and the meditation thing. I think that's really dope. And it's kind of like missing knowledge.
Absolutely,
right?
a lost practice. Yeah.
Because I'm kind of I wouldn't call it conspiracy theorist because it's a bad word these days, but I like alternate, theories of history because trust me, nobody really knows what happened.
Right.
Unless you were there. So history is written by the victors, right? I totally believe in that saying. But let's move on to our next part here. Intro to the Middle East. All right, this is where things get really fun. So the Scythians, man, this was so much research. I felt like I'd been at school after doing this, Alex.
It looks like it too. If you could see his computer screen, yeah.
No, this took effort because unless I sit down and actually plan this stuff, I can't do it. Like I had to wait till yesterday.
Okay.
Because I do my best work when I have no other choice but to do.
I feel like I'm very similar to a lot of people. We were talking about the ADHD thing and stuff, yeah.
Pressure, man. I need the pressure. It ain't getting done. All right, but the Scythians, I didn't know. I had to look this up because I couldn't really place them. And I'm, history is one of my kind of hobbies, right? And when I find something I'm not familiar with, I gotta look it up. So the Scythians were a nomadic ancient tribe. And apparently they have records of early use of cannabis in their burial practices as well. And the Greek historian Herodotus, right? He was the one to give the first kind of testimony about these guys. And they used it to cleanse themselves with vapor baths and they would throw hemp seeds onto heated stones, I guess to kind of smoke them and generate that vapor. But this is enveloping participants and inducing intense reactions, including shouting and laughter.
Including what?
Shouting and laughter.
Oh,
I don't know about the shouting part. That sounds very what's the word? That sounds very made up. I don't know a lot of shouting potheads.
And they would shout.
So
carry on. Yeah.
But the laughing, obviously, that's true. All right. And now, Alex, we're going to go to you for a little bit because you found some interesting stuff.
And then I did.
So go ahead to our next spot.
So you can see on there the introduction to Korea. It's 200 CE. That's 200. And that's the year negative 200, right? And it says cannabis is introduced to Korea from China during the pre-Silla period.
And that's kind of, I think it's pretty much a migration thing, like the Chinese.
China and Korea share a border, I know. Yeah.
So I think it was kind of just they moved from one area to the other, and guess what? They brought the weed with them.
And China's big. There's got to be at least one natural growing weed in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, China has got every form of, land. You got deserts, you got rainforest, you got plains, mountains, you got a little bit of everything. When I looked into Korea, they actually have a couple gods and goddesses that they kind of revere. I'm gonna mess this name up. Magoo,
like Mrs. Magoo.
Mrs. Magoo. We don't cancel us, guys. We're just trying to be funny. But she was their goddess of cannabis. But what I also found is that China and Japan also had hemp goddess. And it was industrial as well as medicinal use with that. So
they use it for clothes and fibers and building and all that, yeah.
And it's funny, it's like the complete opposite today, man. Like all those countries are pretty taboo with marijuana today.
And it just goes to show you can flip over based on what? That's the thing. It's like whatever they used in America, but I guess we're not that's at the 1930s or something like that.
Oh yeah, no,
we're still at before zero.
Yes, we have not reached the year zero yet, which is once you reach the year zero, you start getting better historical sources.
Started counting.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and continue on there, Alex?
180, year 100. In the pharmacopoeia of the Roman physician. Ooh.
Yeah, dude. Just do your best.
Dioscorides or something like that. Cannabis is noted for its medicinal properties. So it's first being used, I guess, or it's first being mentioned and written down in medical journals around that time, 100. I know the Roman Empire was shaping up during that time.
Yeah. It seems that it's not widely used in Rome. Right, as far as I can tell, they knew of it, but they didn't really get into the use of it very much, which makes sense. By that time, the world was big time changing, man. Right, you have Egypt, you have Rome, you have Greece. Right, this is all active during this period, so I'm pretty sure that probably in the North Africa and what we're about to talk about next is where a lot of the marijuana kind of history ended up. So go ahead with what this.
And this is what I feel like. This is what I feel like a lot of people recognize as like when people think about weed history or weed industry, they think about this, which is the year 1000. It says hashish in Arabia. Cannabis is widely used in the form of hashish, concentrated resin, right, in the Middle East, and then. Of course, everyone knows a little bit about the hash assassins, the hash assassins,
I love this,
the ancient sect of assassins that were said to have smoked weed and stuff. But well, I'll let you talk about the hash assassins.
Hashashin. No, so first of all, the information on the hashashin is fragmented, right? And I guarantee that this has been kind of manipulated in terms of what this sect actually was. But what I could find was this is an order of assassins, right? And kind of like an ancient sect of people that, politically wanted change in whatever way. So what I could tell is they would literally get like recruits off the street or whatever, and they would ply them with hash, and they would become kind of suggestible. And once they had come down off the high, they're like, listen, if you ever want to go where you just were again, we suggest you learn how to assassinate people. Which just sounds crazy to me. Because originally I thought that they used it before they went out and did their assassination.
Or afterward at the celebration or something like that, or the completion of the ritual. But I was looking up a lot about this too, because this one is really fascinating to me. There was this guy, I guess it was in ancient time, Iran, which is Persia. Mm-hmm. And he was like kind of sick of the way it was a bunch of kingdoms and caliphates and religious whatever, and it was just all spread out. So he like smart dude. He was like a Jesus kind of like figure, whereas he was very religious and he thought it should be certain different ways. And then he overtook apparently this impregnable fortress city and became the base of the Hashashin. Yeah, the Hashashin.
That sounds like Assassin's Creed to me. I'm serious. I think in one of the games you literally get to play as the Hashashin, or at least start there in Assassin's Creed.
But that was a real fortress and a real thing. And then what's crazy is Genghis Khan's ancestors ended up like they all ended up coming and taking that, but it wasn't other than for that guy that started the Hashashin. And then the Hashashins like reigned, for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They would be able to kill anyone. They did it in broad daylight and stuff like that. So it would like strike fear. They were like master manipulators in that kind of a way. Almost a foreshadowing of today's kind of life. You know what I mean? Where people do things for maximum effect and stuff.
So it looks like Ubisoft got it right with Assassin's Creed, guys, because that's what I remember. But when you see all the different descriptions of this, especially the European ones, that's where it gets messed up, guys. Because that's where things start to get cloudy with this sect. But history is written by the victors, so this is the best we could do.
And we did do a little work, putting it together.
Alex did his homework, by the way. Alex did his homework because I didn't know about that Genghis Khan stuff.
Yeah, I did a little, especially on the Hashashin. It was even that way when I was in school for real. It's like I'd look up the stuff I was interested in. That being said,
yeah, definitely, guys. Do your own research sometimes, man. Because trust me, you look these people up, you're gonna get lost in a hole, like I do. But we're gonna move on.
Next on Cannabis in the New World, getting a little closer to nowadays here. This says 1492 to 1545. Cannabis is introduced to the Western Hemisphere, where it is cultivated primarily for its use as a hemp for ropes and sails. Christopher Columbus, such material, as well as a bunch of other sailors and stuff from the time. I know hemp rope is like better or something like that, or stronger, or better suited for sailing and stuff. So
I love smoking rope,
and it's easier and cheaper, I think, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's a close to natural product, and you can smoke the rope too, guys. You can't do that. Don't go smoke.
Oh, you can't smoke.
But this Christopher Columbus thing, which I thought I was going to take out, but why do they mention Christopher Columbus? Because there's plenty of other sailors, but history victors, guys. But no, whence in terms of my battery's low on this thing. I'm gonna have to. Okay, can you? I believe it's behind us here in my bag. Technical difficulties, guys. She's gonna run and get that. But anyway, so this European diaspora, as it's called, where you had the Spanish settlers, English settlers. This is when cannabis kind of makes the leap over into the North American continent.
That we know of.
Exactly. The Native Americans who were obviously here first. There are mentions of cannabis with them too, but I couldn't find any sources for Native American use of
it. We always wonder like what's in the peace pipe, and we always figure it could be peyote or some other thing. Mm-hmm. Even what is the stuff that you get at the boardwalk that is terrible? Not sativa. I always want to say sativa, but that's not it. It's
good.
That shit is terrible for you.
Good Lord.
Oh man,
I have a great salvia story.
Me too. I bet. Cool. Same.
So we have two salvia stories. We didn't even think about this, guys. I'll tell mine first. So the first time I tried salvia was in college down in Miami,
To you.
I was University of Miami, what up? At that point in my life, I was young and interested in mind-altering substances. I kept on hearing about this salvia, right?
And it's legal.
It was legal. That's one of the reasons I was curious. I think you could get it off the internet at the time, but this is like 2002, guys.
You can download it off a LimeWire onto directly and smoke it from the.
As half of our audience won't remember that or know about Napster and that stuff, dude. That was the first song I ever downloaded off the internet was the theme song of Beverly Hills Cop.
Wow.
I really wanted to hear that, man.
And
I overplayed it 100,000 times.
Remember the Crazy Frog? You could buy it for $2.99. Like ram. He would sing that same song. It's catchy.
It is an interesting song, guys, and I'll party to it right now if it goes on. Don't put that song on here. Anyway, what was I talking about?
Oh yeah, that for salvia.
Salvia. So I ordered some off the internet, and I'm sitting in my roommate's room in college, and we gonna smoke this stuff, man. Let's get to it. Smoking it up. Okay, so a couple minutes after smoking, I went into the worst uncontrollable laughing fit I have ever had. I could not stop laughing, and it got to the point where I was scared and still laughing. What are you laughing at, Alex? It wasn't fun. It was funny to everybody else, but to me, I thought I was going crazy. But the come down is pretty quick, though. It comes on pretty fast, leaves pretty fast. After I was done laughing, I went up and curled in a ball in my dorm room, and that's the last time we ever did that. So, guys, salvia, just smoke some weed.
It's exactly the same. It was the same way for me. Everyone's like, oh, we're going to get some salvia or whatever. We're going to try it. Like, okay. I remember it was a big group of us because everybody wanted to try it. You know what I mean? So it's going around, and the people were just like hitting it, and then they would start laughing, like you said, and then they would just do something weird. And then all sweaty and uncomfortable, and then be like, oh, like that shit was terrible. And we're all like, yeah, no, pass it. It's my turn. Same thing.
I think what you're talking about is a loss of oxygen to the brain.
Something, because they're like, oh, hold it in until your eyes start shaking or something. It's like, what kind of advice is you gotta until your pupils start going. It's like, nah. So you held it in. I held it in, and to me, I was being closed inside of a clamshell, and then I felt sweaty and uncomfortable, and then that was the end. Afterward, I had like a headache, and I was sweaty, and it was terrible.
How did this proliferate? Right? It's the worst experience.
But then the thing is, like 5 or 6 years later, you hear about it, and you're like, oh, they're gonna smoke. Oh, want to try some? Oh, maybe. You think about it. No, that shit is terrible. Like,
listen, I don't know why anybody thought that drug was fun. It is the worst.
I don't even get it.
I don't get it either, because it looks. If you smoke a couple rounds of that, I guarantee you're gonna be at the hospital, and they're gonna be like, what have you been using? And they're gonna be like, salvia. They're going to have no idea what the shit to do with you, right? Because if you come into the hospital with a weed overdose, they're just going to put some fluids in you and tell your ass to sit down and shut up. Because that happens a lot these days. It's weed, marijuana poisonings. Yeah, and they go to the hospital. Trust me, the hospital, just sit at home and ride it out. That's literally your only option.
Go to sleep or something.
Literally your only, well, obviously, if they could sleep, they wouldn't be in the hospital.
Right, true. But I guess it's like, I don't know, I always felt like before overdosing or whatever on marijuana, you would just like forcibly fall asleep, or something like you.
No, it's the whole kind of marijuana poisoning thing is just people that don't want to take baby steps, right? If you're just starting, don't take too much. Take a small amount, right? If it's an edible, definitely take a small amount. Because you can always eat another piece of gummy, but there's no way to take that gummy and the THC in it out of your body once it's sent. So
can't reverse eat it. Yeah, and out of
reverse. Yeah. Go slow, guys. All right, so I'm going to take over here for a little bit because we are getting to the western part of this story. So the first cultivation in North America was in Jamestown. Right, and it was grown right alongside tobacco. At this point, I think it's still kind of an industrial crop, right? When the Americas are getting started, and it was a major crop for North America for years because they made fabrics out of it. So clothes, sails, rope, smoking rope. But that was the main use of cannabis before they kind of discovered the medical potentiality of it. We got our Irish doctor here, William Brooke O'Shaughnessy, 1840s, right? He goes to India, finds this plant, and he's off to the races. And he brings it back to America for all of you to try. But if you've ever seen like old Westerns or an old bottle that says like marijuana on it.
Yeah, marijuana with the H is always cracked me up. I love that, marijuana.
They used it. It was commonly used as a medicine, and starting in the 1840s all the way up to when American Prohibition begins.
I wonder what they would what they would give it to people for.
Well, usually it's stomach aches, headaches. You know, there was a time where going to a physician to get treatment for anything, you're better off just staying sick. Because, you know, in the beginning of, you know, doctoring, as it were, that was barbaric. Like in the UK, for instance, you know, you got these theaters and somebody's got some ailment and they go in the theater, everybody's watching. Man, some of these people end up completely maimed and disabled for the rest of their lives.
The very first surgical drama.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, before, I'd say before the 1800s, like I said, you're better off just suffering because that physician going to make your life much worse because they're experimenting.
Leeches.
There you go. Which leeches have turned out to be useful in some ways, especially removing dead tissue, but neither here nor there. So the first country to kind of have 20th century prohibition is the UK. And this is when you get to these kind of racist overtones in cannabis, right? It begins as kind of a, don't let these people come over here because of this crazy plant they're probably going to bring with them. And this goes on to inform drug policy in Americas and other parts of the world until today, right? The basis of drug policy in the United States is it's racist overtones, and it was used as a kind of a scapegoat, right, to discourage Mexican migration, as well as demonize certain other people that had other than white skin. But this is when the propaganda starts, guys. And this kind of screws up the entire game until recent times. So let's just, I had a couple quotes here I wanted to read to you as we say, and then we're going to look at a trailer, one of my favorite trailers. Harry Anslinger, right? Harry Anslinger was the first commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, and this guy had a bug in his ass about marijuana, right? You know, violent behavior, no. Insanity, no. Right? It causes people to murder and just leave their kids at home. Well, leave your kids at home might happen to some people, but none of these things were true. Right? The way they were describing cannabis, this stuff just wasn't true.
Yeah, so, I wonder what he was watching, or if it was just a propaganda thing. Like, because you think about them, he put someone in it's like a study, you know what I mean? And they watch someone smoke weed.
Right.
And then what's this dude banging on the inside of the walls and stuff? I doubt it, you know what I mean? So, weed or the salvia, no.
The narrative kind of pops up is that it led users, especially Black and Latino users, to commit violent crimes and seduce white women.
Oh, hell no.
Which is basically completely untrue. But, you know, this is what they went to kind of stem migration, right? I think the Mexican Civil War was around this time, right? And because of that, there was kind of a diaspora towards the United States. And just as today, the same stuff's going on today. They tried to find a reason to not let these people into the country or across the border, and that was it. Right. So it just continues to get worse from there. Right. Finally, let me go back to my thing here. All right. Next page. All right. So the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. So this is kind of the formalization of prohibition in the United States. And there's an interesting side story here. Alcohol, which was also given prohibition around that area. Prohibition and doing this stuff does not decrease demand. Right? So when you prohibit something that is widely used in a society, such as marijuana or alcohol at the time, prohibition does not stop that demand. What it does is shifts the demand, right? And now you get people that can make money off of doing this. So you got a criminal element, right? Pushes it underground. You got to grow it in your backyard or whatever. By the way, rich people drank all through Prohibition. This was just basically the poor people that couldn't have access to alcohol, because champagne toasts were a thing right through Prohibition, right? So right there, you kind of have a class thing, right? We don't want these lowlies using these substances because they're not responsible or whatever it is. It's nonsense, right? And every law that follows up until the 90s or so is laced with this stuff. And it becomes a way to kind of not say the racist part, right, but say the marijuana part, and kind of stop change, which a lot of Americans don't like change, and they're fearful of it for whatever reason. But this continues to affect the issue of marijuana until today. All right, so I'm going to read a little something to you. The racial undertones of cannabis prohibition have long-lasting effects, influencing drug enforcement policies for decades. Even today, despite a shift towards legalization in many states, there remain significant racial disparities in the enforcement of cannabis. Very true. So these laws, they affect African Americans and Latinos disproportionately, right? And you need to know this stuff, guys, because when you go fight for your right to smoke or whatever, you can inform people of this stuff, and they won't have a retort, right? Because if they drank alcohol, you're hypocritical right out the bat, because that is just as if not very much more intoxicating than marijuana. So you got no leg to stand on. Right, when you're saying you can go to the bar, but you can't go to the dispensary, right? All of these townships that have kind of said no weed in my town. I bet you there are a bunch of bars in there, right? Which means they like their kind and they don't want your kind, because they think that it's going to bring whatever kind of element of people, right? So when you go and you argue about marijuana, remember, this stuff is not informed by science at all, right? It is informed by fear and supposition. That's what American drug policy is all about.
And ignorance, I think, too. And they got to keep you ignorant, otherwise it doesn't really work that well, which is part of the reason why we do this. So
no. And remember last week we were talking about DARE, the DARE program? They haven't really learned their lesson, man. I was watching some videos to see, because I was curious to see what the state of DARE was now. They ain't made much progress, guys. So your kid will be coming home soon talking about, look, guess what I learned today? It's completely backwards. But anyway, after this initial demonization of marijuana, right, we kind of get to a period where the counterculture movement starts, and these is where the hippies come in, guys. Right. So the 1960s and 70s, for those of you that weren't there, which was got to be the large part of our audience, the 60s and 70s had a lot of things to be upset about. And it kind of parallels today even, right? Because you got the Vietnam War, which was probably the main anti-war movement of the time. So, and by they had this kind of anti-mainstream alternative lifestyle deal going on, right? So marijuana was absolutely a part of that. And people started trying the things that they were told they shouldn't try. So before we continue, though, we want to do a little clip of my favorite movie. Akira, can you bring that up for us? All right. Let's take a play. All right. 1 second, guys. That's on.
But make it really low so it doesn't.
Okay. Okay. Here we go, guys.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently, they dance. Innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell. In this film, you will see the ease with which this vicious plant can be grown in your neighbor's yard, rolled into harmless-looking cigarettes, hidden in an innocent shoe or watch case. In this startling film, you will see dopesters lure children to destruction.
We're going over to Joe's place. Why don't you come along?
We have a date to play a set of doubles.
Oh, you can play anytime. Come on, we'll have some laughs.
Can I go along with you?
Sure.
Hey, I'll see you at dinner, sis.
If you want a good smoke, try one of these.
You will meet Bill, who once took pride in his strong will as he takes the first step toward enslavement.
Of course, if you're afraid.
Smoking the soul-destroying reefer, they find a moment's pleasure, but at a terrible price. Debauchery, violence, murder, suicide. And the ultimate end of the marijuana addict. Hopeless insanity. See this important film now, before it is too late.
That is some good stuff. All right, hold on, guys. How good was that? How much do you want to go right down to the theater and buy you some tickets for Reefer Madness? Not at all.
You can buy a sarsaparilla.
If you're old time, we're gonna go down to the soda bar before we head over to see Reefer Madness. Listen, those people look like they're on methamphetamines, right? What was that? What that was? The leg jumped out of the window, guys. The feverish piano playing. What?
I don't know. He'll play faster to satisfy his, I don't know, raging whatever, induced by marijuana.
But I'm talking about, that's the definition of propaganda, right? And it was movies like that. And can we put up one of the posters, Akira? Yeah.
You can see how much more sophisticated propaganda has gotten between then and now, too. You know what I mean? That used to cut it. Whereas we watch that now and we're like, oh, it's obviously bullshit, But
well, I think we're at a time where most of the normal people of the world, they get right. They're no longer swayed by this kind of stuff because there are sources that tell them the truth, like here maybe. But look at this: women cry for it, men die for it, drug crazed abandon. But look at the youthful marijuana victims; those poor people. But guys, this is the kind of nonsense that the boomers had to deal with, as well as, what do they call it, Generation X, right? This is the stuff they deal with, and this is what informs their opinions today.
Right, the attitudes get folded in what they make, not necessarily this direct stuff, but it's like this person comes up thinking that this is it, and then maybe the laws that they make are thus influenced by it. People don't really get it. They're like, oh, well, here's the thing. But it's not. It's, it creeps into our subconscious in ways that it still does, you know what I mean? So,
and the way New Jersey has rolled out the marijuana program, every township kind of has a say in this. So every town council full of people uninformed about marijuana, they get to make the decisions about where the dispensaries go or if they don't go at all, right? So if you've got a board of people, in their 60s or maybe a little bit lower, and this is the era that they're from. So they come into this town council meeting with these preconceived notions about what marijuana is going to bring to their town. All nonsense, because the marijuana, we were over at Daylight yesterday, right? There's every kind of person over there. Or on 420, we were over there. Every kind of person. You got lawyers, doctors, white, black, Latino,
old and young.
Old, Old is for sure, because the fastest growing sector of the weed market is actually the boomers right now, because the veil has been lifted and they are curious. And we're going to find out as a public health measure, once we finally start studying weed the right way, that cannabinoids are a part of aging healthily. You remember we talked about the endocannabinoid system last time, right? And this system, which was discovered in the 80s, is an internal system that all of us have that are receptor sites for marijuana. That's all the evidence I need to know, right? And again, the endocannabinoid system helps the body maintain stasis. So it is really a part of aging and living well, cannabinoids. Right? Why would we have that system if that wasn't the case? So this is where the knowledge starts, guys, because you can parallel this stuff from then to now very easily. So next on our historical run, legal medical use, and then Alex will have you finish up after the 1996 entry on our timeline. So guys, in the 90s, late 80s, the specter of AIDS has begun to rear its head, right? And if you're not familiar with that time, AIDS started to proliferate in America very, very fast. First amongst the gay community and then the larger populace. And these people were sick and dying with no options, right? Nothing worked because, there was no cure for AIDS. There still isn't. But the medical community had no idea what to do with this. Now, today there are medicines that can at least help you live a much more normal life. But for a while, there were no options for these guys, right? You ever seen Dallas Buyers Club?
Yeah. Yep. Once a long time ago, but yes.
It's a movie with, is it McConaughey? Mm-hmm. Matthew McConaughey. Jared Leto, yep. And they are, the movie's about kind of what happened then, man. And the medicines that they had access to first definitely might have done more harm than good, right? Interesting story. And around the same time I moved to Mount Laurel, this had to be 97, 98. Guys, my mom worked for Big Pharma for her complete, most of her career. Now she works for Little Marijuana, but she used to be in Big Pharma. So there was a time when pharmaceutical salespeople were definitely the most educated in terms of drugs, right? Alex, doctors sometimes are just not as good on the medicine side because that's not necessarily where they do most of their training.
Right, and people don't realize that a lot. And people think, it's a doctor, you can trust the doctor, but doctors are people just like us in a lot of ways.
Yes.
You can't at all.
Yeah. And there was a time, now this isn't so true anymore, but at this time in the 80s and 90s, these salespeople for the big pharma people like Merck and Johnson & Johnson, they were definitely the most well-educated in terms of, medicines. So around that time, they're getting close to kind of at least these medicines that can help. But up until then, they needed another option. And California was the first person to kind of do this, right? California legalized medical marijuana for one reason, and it was for compassionate use for these people with AIDS, HIV and AIDS. There was nothing to even make them comfortable, right? But as we all knew in that time, or not all of us, but as the counterculture knew, marijuana helps deal with some of these symptoms, inflammation and pain and not being able to sleep. So they legalized it. It's a good damn idea. Because following suit, everything falls over the next 30 years, right? And we get to the point where we are today, right? So AIDS, guys, it is definitely the turning point, which I did not think about until I started doing this research about Prop 215 in California. California is like a country, man, all on its own. It's so big. That place operates like a country. But Alex, why don't you take us out on the next 4 spots here?
All right. So next is in 2012. The legal recreational use of cannabis became legal in Colorado and Washington. They were the first ones to legalize just straight up recreational use. And I remember I was in Colorado in like 2012, maybe 2013, and I saw an ad in the newspaper for a dispensary in Dillon, Colorado. I was like, what? You know what I mean? Like in the newspaper, you know?
How far was it from where you were located?
Very far.
Did you go anywhere?
No, definitely not. I was with my family, and I was also, in 2012, I was like, 22? Yeah.
What do you mean 22? It's the perfect time.
Yeah, I guess so.
I would have driven all the way down there immediately. No, 2012 is when the curtain falls, man. Right? It is in this period that stuff like YouTube and other sources of media start to come up, and people start telling the truth.
Yeah. Even before that, if you think the movies and stuff, and in popular culture and songs and music and all that, you know what I mean? It kind of slowly chips away, I feel like.
It did. You had movies like Cheech and Chong in the 80s, which are so good, guys. Guys, if you haven't seen the Cheech and Chong movies, shout outs to Tommy Chong and what's the other guy's name? Cheech Marin, Tommy Chong. Guys, these are some of your first like celebrity activists. And they've been arrested for this stuff. Tommy Chong's still active in the business.
I saw that, yeah.
He gets arrested every now and then too. But how are you going to arrest Tommy Chong? That is just the smoothest, coolest dude.
It's like,
on the planet.
Man, okay. Like, I guess I'll go to the
dude. No, I've seen Tommy Chong at events every now and then, and he's always been nice. Right? I've shaken his hand before. I didn't take a picture because I was starstruck, but no, that's legal recreational use 2012. Oh wait, okay. Oh wait, I'm sorry guys, I read it wrong. But then go on to our next one, Alex, 2013.
So the first legal country, and it says that Uruguay became the very first country in the world to fully legalize cannabis for recreational use on December 10th, 2013. That day that we'll all remember, December 10th, 2013. The law, known as the Marijuana Regulation and Control Act, was signed by President Jose Mujica.
I just think it's funny that you're legalizing a plant that's been around for thousands of years already, and everybody's already using it.
Right. First they made it illegal, and then you got to re-legalize it again. It seems.
Yeah, it's because you get why it was made illegal. It had nothing to do with the plant, everything to do with just keeping those people out of my backyard. Ridiculous. I think Uruguay is where Mike Tyson's farm is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think he has a marijuana farm down there.
Nice.
I love Mike Tyson, by the way, guys. He's going to be fighting Jake Paul in a couple of weeks. It's going to be on pay-per-view, probably very expensive, but watch it. You're never, ever going to get to see a 60-year-old man fight a 20-year-old man again. Oh, he going to get his ass knocked out, Jake Paul, man. Alex, you could come on over and watch it. Because
I am interested to see. I usually don't watch like fights and stuff like that, but I'm interested to see Mike Tyson in a boxing match again. Yeah,
it's like an exhibition.
Jake Paul.
Oh yeah, nah. Jake Paul's definitely problematic. Some NFT scammer. You remember? It's an exhibition fight, guys, so it's not like anybody's wearing a belt. You remember in Rocky 2 where he fights Hulk Hogan? Do you remember that?
I actually shouldn't say this to the internet, but I've seen bits and pieces of any of the Rocky movies.
We're gonna have to cut that out because listen, you do most of your work in Philly.
Exactly right.
Guys, no, he's kidding. He's seen all 6. There are a lot of Rocky movies in there.
Yeah.
First 3 are all the ones need to see. But Alec, do you know where the statue is? At least the Rocky statue.
Yep.
I was scared there for a minute. All right, go ahead.
All right, so 2018, fast forward to 2018, Canada becomes the second country in all the world to fully legalize cannabis. Canada seems to be ahead in a lot of ways like that kind of a thing.
Yeah, no, Canada, they got universal health care, which is my favorite thing about Canada. Because trust me, I'm going to be a citizen of Canada. I need something expensive. But no, Canada represents the second, and life goes on, right? It's slowly ticking over to the entire world. You do have countries where they definitely don't have a positive opinion of marijuana. But guys, eventually 10, 15 years from now, when the country, the United States itself legalizes it, the curtain will fall. And you'll see this stuff everywhere. And that's when these corporate guys are going to try and take over everything.
I feel like they kind of already are. They're setting up for that time, right? Yeah, because...
Right, dude. There are companies that own 50% of the market already. And what they do is they kind of they just name themselves all these different things, shell companies, so it doesn't look like they're related to the parent company. But yeah, there are companies that have massive slices of the marijuana market, and this is foreign money, right? This money doesn't necessarily come from the States, which means the profit doesn't necessarily go to the States. And I thought about, naming some of these companies as we went on, but I think I'm going to avoid that because people work at these companies, right? Its practices are not anything that's their fault. So I won't go out and disparage any companies in particular, just the practices. But, these companies are staffed by regular people, right? So we don't want to affect anybody's job. But take us out to our last one, Alex.
All right, so the 2020s, which is now, continuing legalization and research. More states and countries continue to legalize cannabis for medical and recreational use and research, medicinal applications. And research continues, to expand in medical applications. So, you know what I mean? And between all of these things, where, these are just the major points, but between all of them, there has kind of been this wave that's rising. Up until now, New Jersey legalized it. They sent their letters to everybody saying, the times you've been arrested in the past are now wiped out, for weed or whatever, which is nice.
Every November, there's some state that's got this on the ballot, guys, right? Every single election season, somebody's got this on the ballot. And the reason that the federal curtain needs to fall, and I will kind of explain this point to you. The reason we don't know much more about the cannabis plant and its applications and the possibilities for our medical industry is because you can't study it, right? These large companies that basically are not companies, these large colleges where a lot of the United States different research into plants or whatever it is go on, they can't bring this stuff into their university while it's federally illegal, right? So you can't get clinical trials. You can't do, the study over time.
Because technically, the federal government could bust through the door, right? Yeah.
Or pull their funding.
Right.
Or pull their funding. So this federal prohibition is hurting all of us because there are things in these plants that could solve a lot of common issues.
I know epilepsy seizures is a big one with CBD and stuff. People are driving across the country to get CBD for their kid, and they used to have 100 seizures a day. Now that's like one a week or something.
No, exactly. And it's interesting. CBD has kind of went through a rough time because there's this period when a lot of CBD was extremely low quality, right? Because you need to use pharmaceutical grade production methods to get a consistent product. So you would have people that would buy a high dollar, large amount of CBD milligrams. They take it, nothing would happen. And they, go on with their life thinking CBD didn't work. Big business took over CBD within a year and it was everywhere, right? Half of it's bullshit. Half of it does not work because the production methods were not of a good standard, right? These big pharma, and the thing that big pharma does really well is quality control and production. And because of those methods, every Tylenol you take is the same strength, right? That same application of technology has to come over to marijuana for us to have a consistent, safe product. So that's why we need to vote for federal legalization, guys, because we're holding ourselves back as a nation by not getting deep into science and cannabis. It'll happen eventually because, listen, I want a cure for cancer by the time I'm 60. You guys got to get to work because the world needs this. And I'll tell you this, I think cannabis can save the world. I'm not joking about that. I'm not joking at all, because the fact that we have this system that is specifically set aside for cannabinoids, that's curious to me, guys. That's curious to me. Okay, we've already been here an hour, Alex. Good Lord. At least we got through the lesson, guys. And I appreciate you guys sticking through this, because you have to start with a basis of knowledge, right? The reason we did the history here is because as we layer this cake of cannabis knowledge, you needed a good base, right? And now that we have kind of the history part out of the way, we can move on to the more important policy parts of cannabis, and we can get into our guests. That I'm thinking another episode or two we'll have our first guest. But
yeah, we're getting better each time. It's smoother this time.
Alex, I think we did much better than we did last time.
Absolutely.
Last time I couldn't stop moving. I couldn't stop moving. I was so excited, and I literally was nauseous when we posted the pilot. So nervous I was.
Whatever. In a few weeks time or a few months time, it'll be like that one won't even have mattered. You know what I mean? It will be,
as long as we keep making episodes. That is our chime, guys. So let's, Alex, where are you going to be for the next couple of weeks? You doing any shows?
Oh, yes. So May 2nd, which is this coming, is that a Thursday night? Usually they have those shows on Thursday night. Yeah, Thursday night. This coming Thursday night, May 2nd, I'm at Cigar Code in Philly. It's a really nice cigar lounge spot. A great room for comedy. It's wooden and beautiful in there. It's really cool. It's right by Rivers Casino, too, in like Fishtown area, right up by the river. So, yeah, May 2nd, Cigar Code, with a couple other comedians that I performed with, which is rare. So, and cool. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing that. I want to get people out there. So, Cigar Code. Tickets are cheap. I was going to say cheap. Nah, tickets are cheap, too, like $10.
And looks like you got one on the 11th, brother.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I got one on the 11th, and that's in South Jersey, and that's with my guy Drew Beans on there. I've been with him. Actually, last time I was at the cigar spot, I performed with him.
Dude, I am so damn proud of you, man.
And I appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun out here doing that.
Guys, wait, I said this to Alex. Listen, when you get on Saturday Night Live, let me get some tickets. But anyway, guys, thank you for joining us today. We got many, many more episodes coming. So make sure to like and subscribe on the YouTube. Comment, please. We're now streaming everywhere that podcasts are. And this is all thanks to our producer. But thanks for coming back, guys. This is just the beginning. Once again, we will see you in a couple weeks.
See you in a couple weeks. Much love. Appreciate it.
Peace.